Well, normally there's going to be above my monitor will be the box of like a few board games as well in that little space. It's going to be a bit of both. I've also got an After Us poster behind me there. I'm going to try and build that wall out to like some sort of collage.
After those. Yeah, you don't want to
Yeah, it's a
choose.
board game, isn't it? It's
Less
Vincent
is
Dutrait, innit?
more. Less is more. Always remember that.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's okay for the talky stuff. I'm not going to use, obviously, the main like reviews and stuff are still going to be in front of my shelf upstairs.
Hello and welcome to Board Game Bonkers at this Under Meeple show. And today's guest, we've got the Hexy Beast from his own YouTube channel. He talks all about solo board games and is known
Yes.
also by Jonathan. Welcome.
Hello, how are you today, Jay? Yeah, it's like I saw you yesterday.
That's funny.
So, what's the plan for this evening? I run this solo channel called the Hexy Beast, but I want to know how you're going to grill me and what questions are going to be coming my way. So I'm
That's
just
right.
excited.
Well, we're going to be
And
diving into this and we're going to pull out 10 questions to present to our guests. But obviously, Jonathan has no idea what the questions are. And, well, I can't even remember half of the questions. So, before we start, do you want to just explain, Jonathan, a bit more about your channel and how people can reach you?
well, basically, you can just search the Hexy Beast pretty much anywhere and you'll find me. And I tend to cover mainly solo slash co-op games, and I tend to focus on them from the side of the consumer as opposed to being fully integrated into the industry like a lot of other creators. I tend not to do so many previews and try and cover a lot more that's available on the shelf for people who want to play it at the moment, as opposed to doing stuff that's going to be coming down in 2 years' time. But that's just
Yeah,
a recent thing. We'll talk about that. I'll probably have a question where I can talk about
yeah. Well, let's not delay that. Let's dive in to
that.
our first question, Jonathan. So let's see what comes out the bowl first. And all of these should be related to the board game industry, unless we've got some surprises.
No
So
surprises.
our first one, if people have been watching around, they know there's four different types of questions. Well, three main ones, which is yes or no, what phrase comes to mind, and I can't remember what the other one was. So this will be a surprise for some people if they haven't been watching. So the first one is a yes or a no
Uh-oh.
question. Do painted minis make the gaming experience much better?
That is not really a yes or no question, is it? Like you could say it makes the experience better, but would you say it's needed? I wouldn't say it's needed to enjoy a game, for sure.
No, and it's actually funny because with this conversation about Blood Rage and having those minis painted to give a more immersive experience.
That's more down to the readability of the board in that game, I think. I think a wash would benefit those minis simply because it would help differentiate the colors better than the bases do, especially when there's a lot of minis on the board. So that
Yeah,
one's kind of like that. But saying would painting a game make it better? I think every time someone's actually put paint on minis, it does improve the look of a game. You can't really deny it, especially if you're taking photos or something. Like
yeah.
an unpainted game always looks worse than a painted game. I wouldn't say even a bad painted game looks worse than an unpainted game. So in that case, the answer to that question is probably just yes. So I think that pretty much covers it. Yeah, Jay?
I mean,
What do you think?
it does make a difference, doesn't it, if they're washed or they've got some kind of paint on them. I think it does make a difference. And it depends where you want to be spending that money if you don't paint yourself, because it is expensive to have minis painted. But each to our own, I suppose. So let's see what question two or the statement comes out
Oh,
as.
the statement.
We do have some statements. Let's see what's next. And have another yes or a no question.
Very political.
Should there be an official list of iconographies to use in board game design?
No. You
Okay,
want to know
wow.
why? Well, because quite frankly, most iconography is kind of dependent on theme. Like you couldn't have a space game and suddenly have swords and shields to represent your armor and shield, would you? You would have like some kind of lightning bolt or something to represent like a bubble shield of some sort. It just don't make sense to use the same iconography from one game to the next in a lot of cases. But there are some that you could always say, why doesn't stone always look the same? But if you look at games from certain publishers, some of them do that. Like the people who do the Architects of the West Kingdom and games like that and Garfield, they tend to reuse a lot of their components and iconography between games, which helps with the readability for people who are familiar with their games when a new game comes out. But I don't think they should be like standardized iconography. However, if you were to ask me about standardized terminology, that's another matter.
Do you think some, because there's some iconographies that could potentially be quite common. So, for example, the lightning bolt, we know that's quite common, used that icon. And we know the ones, the symbol, I don't know how you would kind of describe
The
this.
heart,
One where you get reoccurring action, or you can use multiple times. So there's certain icons that are quite common.
but they always do different functions. Like that lightning bolt could either be an action point, it could be a paralysis, it could also be, power. There's a lot of things it could be used for. That's why it's dependent on theme.
Yeah, it's a very good point indeed. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see what other people think as well, especially those
Yeah.
who play a lot of board games, especially icon heavy, and whether they feel that certain symbols should be quite common across the board. And there is a light argument here to say that yes, the lightning bolt can represent different things, but usually it means a one-off time use, doesn't it? In a lot of
Oh
board
yeah,
games.
it could also mean a fast card as well. In a lot of card games, they use the lightning bolt to mean that it doesn't cost an action.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. They should comment about it. That's all we need. We need comments. Should we have standardized iconography?
We'll see. I'm sure there might be something somewhere where somebody's done some kind of spreadsheet to show that these are the most common symbols. I'm sure it's been done before, but we will. I'm sure we'll find out. Somebody will put something in the link than before.
There's someone on
So
BGG who's written about it, I'm sure.
yeah, 100%. There'll be something for something. So let's move into number three then, Jonathan. Let's see what comes out. See, we got a different one this time, and we
Mm.
got as our third one an agree or disagree statement.
Oh, very, very binary questions I'm getting
So
this
this is
time.
this is an interesting one. Second-hand board games are way too expensive.
It depends what they are, once again. If someone's selling like old Kickstarter that's out of print, you'd expect it to be more expensive than, say, a copy of Pandemic. Would you spend more than a tenner for a copy of Pandemic? Second hand?
Depending if it's in mint condition, then yeah, because if it's near mint or perhaps it's near new, then I don't mind. I suppose it depends as well on the nostalginess of the game, like the
Mm.
rarity of it.
That
Um,
wasn't a slant on Pandemic, by the way. It's just a game that's constantly around 20 quid when it's on sale in shops. That's why I chose that one.
yeah, well, I like Pandemic. I'd be happy paying
I
£20 for it.
enjoy the game, but I'm just saying, would you spend more than 15 tenner for it second hand? Because you could find it for 25 quid probably in
Probably
shrink.
no, probably not. And I on this concept of, and I'm probably in the wrong end of second-hand market because I'll not pay for anything. It's more than
I tend
half
to give
price.
games away more than I try to sell them as well, so it's not something I'm quite experienced with.
Yeah, I tend to stick to if it's more than half the price of what the original selling price would be, then I'm not buying it because I want to me, second hand is half the price of it because now it's had half the use in most cases. So therefore, I've got this psychological concept. I'll wait until it's at least half the price where possible. That is not always the case though, because remember I purchased a game
Mm.
called Castaways. I had to pay quite a lot for it because it's not going to come out in print again, and I had to get imported from America.
That was kind of the reason I spent a lot of money on Madara, because it would have cost me more to ship the game from where it was being made if I'd gone in on Kickstarter than to just pick it up while I was at a convention. And I had to rope some friends to bring it home for us, so that was fun.
It'll be interesting to see what other people think about this because people got different opinions on the second-hand board game market. And I have seen some outrageous prices, especially on eBay, that there's no way I'd be paying the price that they sell for.
Hmm.
And whilst I can understand certain Kickstarters might go for a higher price, I completely understand that. And it's almost if there's a demand for it, well, there's going to be a higher selling price point, isn't there? But it'd be interesting to see what our viewers think and what is the cut-off point in terms of the percentage of the actual retail price of what you're willing to pay for a second-hand board game.
It's generally more about if I could find it on sale cheaper. I mean, 10-20% is enough for me if it's a good game that I've been looking for. Do you know what I mean? It's not really a price thing for me. It's more about the availability. If I can't find it anywhere else, then I got no choice but to get it secondhand, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Recently, actually, I found called Intimate Domain. Now, you actually found a brand new copy of it, and I had to pay a little bit more than what the actual retail price was. Was happy to pay that. It was brand new in shrink wrap, and it came with an expansion as well. I was quite lucky to get it to the price point that I did, but there was no way I can get out of normal retail shops. I had to get on eBay, but thankfully it was actually reasonably priced. And thankfully, it's not actually a sought after game, so it was quite okay paying that amount of money.
Yeah.
But you do get some outrageously way overpriced for what they are. But yeah, let us know at home as well what you think and what your kind of cut off point is, because I'd be interested to know, because I'm sure you've got many different opinions on this. But
Yeah, a lot of people probably buy a lot more secondhand games than I do, put it that way.
yeah, and well, everyone's got their own viewpoint in that. So let's move in to our number four. Let's see if we get a yes or no. What phrase comes to mind, or an agree or disagree statement? So our next one is, what phrase comes to mind for those
Mm.
who are obsessed by how pristine condition the board games must be kept in? Well, that's convenient, given we're talking about second.
Yeah, the last one. I'm okay if a corner's broken, especially if it is secondhand. I'm like, you kind of expect a certain level of bendiness in your cards and stuff. Do you know what I mean? You're not buying it brand new. And I think, I don't know, some people get really picky about the tiniest little scratch on a box or something when all you got to do is turn it round on your shelf, it looks fine. You know what I'm saying? It's not even a case of aesthetic. You see it all the time, don't you? People putting up their Facebook posts, got this tiniest little scratch and then saying, I want to take this company down or that company down. They shouldn't have sent this to me. The packaging was terrible. Or because they got that little tiny dent on the corner. I just
Yeah,
think
yeah.
games are supposed to be played, man, not displayed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, as long as the contents of it are fine, because that's what you're playing with. I mean, the
Mm,
box is there really there to protect the contents. That's what. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a
mm.
box, and it'd be put in bags. So, I can understand why people want a pristine game. I completely get it. Because obviously they want to preserve it, they maybe want to hand it to their children, they want to keep it in good condition. I completely get that and understand that. But for a little mark, I mean, I remember I picked this, it was a second-hand game, Sino Shift, I think it was called.
Oh
And
yeah, I
the
know it's kind of shift.
box, oh my goodness, the box was literally falling
Xeno
apart.
shift, I think. You want about Xeno shift?
Sino
Yeah.
Shift, that, yeah, so the box was horrendous state, but the contents were immaculate. So I was happy,
Yeah,
I was
it's
okay
just
with
a card
that.
game with some dice or whatever, isn't it? It's not really
Yeah.
that big a problem to keep safe.
No, it's just cards essentially. It's in there.
Mm.
So I was happy to use some sellotape and sellotape the corners and keep it intact,
Yeah.
because I'm not going to be one of these people who are going to be kind
Give
of
me a
keeping.
refund. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That's not the way to go about a little bit of a dent, I don't think.
I think, yeah, people got different perceptions of this. People have got OCD when it comes to board games. I
Mm.
completely get it. I completely understand why people want Steam games. I'm a bit like that, but
That's
listen,
what the shop's for.
a little nip, does it really matter if there's a little scratch or a little nip?
Yeah. I suppose it depends. It really does. Like some people obviously have reasons why they're very particular about it, I imagine.
Yeah,
But for me, you'll see bumps on my shelf in videos and stuff. I'm not particularly careful about it. I don't sell games, so same time.
as long as you enjoy the board game, that's the most important
Mm.
thing of all, not necessarily the condition of the games. Let's see what our next question is, Jonathan. We're on to
Yeah,
number
we spent a
five.
long time on this one. Yeah, I was going to say we spent a long time on that question. Let's see if we
So
can get something that's not as yes or no.
let's see what number five brings. And I think this might be an actual yes or no. It's not, it's an agree or disagree statement.
Oh,
So this has got an interesting one. Board games are educational. Do you agree or disagree?
I'd say absolutely. I mean, part of the reason I started playing board games was literally down to me trying to make my brain work better after a brain injury. Do you know what I mean? That was like so. Like as the mathematics, you've seen me play. Sometimes I'll count my spaces. Sometimes I can do the math really quick in my head. I think the way board games like challenge that part of my brain to just continually like repeat tasks. And once I get good at them and I start figuring out strategies, it's just a way of keeping the old brain working, I think. But I also think there's a lot of like historical context that can be taught through board games as well.
Mhm.
For good or for bad in some cases, like, but they are like things that people can learn that they wouldn't understand. Like I wouldn't know anything about the Sagrada de Familia if it wasn't for board games. That was just a blank spot in my knowledge. All of a sudden, I'm playing a game called Sagrada. I get interested in the cathedral and how it was built, and suddenly I've learned something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's,
I definitely agree that they are educational. They can teach you something, and there's a lot of evidence that shows about, maybe some motoring skills with tactile games. You can have your
mm,
logic skills that can improve, cognitive skills that can improve. There's lots in your memory skills can improve. So there's lots of
yeah.
benefits. And I think the vast majority of board games do teach you something.
Mm. I mean, even if it's just something about the way you compete or how you deal with like, tense situations, there's a lot that can be learned about your own personality from board games, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless you're stuck with Monopoly and you're getting frustrated with your anger.
Yeah. But I guarantee you, the copy of Monopoly that someone's got stashed in the top of their attic has been played well more than anything else on our shelf. You know what I mean? Despite it being there for 20, 30 years, it's definitely probably been played than anything else we own, just from like, family events and things like that.
Yeah, well, Monopoly did what it did at the time, and
I
you went
don't
from
say I like it. I'm not saying I like the game, but I have to give it respect for what it did.
yeah. I'm sure we've all got memories of that. I'm sure we could all talk for hours on different of Monopoly and the timeless days of spending bloody 6 hours playing it. So let's move on to our next question, and let's
I
see.
just had to drop the Monopoly bomb, didn't I? I ruined the whole thing.
Let's see how long we spend on this one. So, number 6, once I can actually open it, is an agree or disagree statement. So,
Yeah,
dating someone who also enjoys board games is important for your relationship to thrive.
not at all. My wife has only ever played a game with me twice.
Hmm.
And granted, one of them was a complete campaign of Aeon's End Legacy. So it was kind of technically more like 10 times by the time we'd gone through that. She really
I,
likes deck building games, but she doesn't like playing as much as I do. She's rather read a book. She's a book person, you know? So
hmm.
like I don't think you need to date someone who plays board games to have a good relationship at all. I mean, I
No,
imagine it can be helpful and it can be a useful like thing to have in common, but I
yeah.
don't think you should use it as a basis for having a good relationship.
No, you're absolutely right. It shouldn't be a basis for that, but can it help thrive relationship? I think it can in some circumstances. Uh, I think if you've got a common interest or a common hobby together, I think that can help relationship and bonding. But also, you need your own hobbies and space as well, don't you? So,
Yeah, but the question was, do you need? So that's why I answered it that way.
yeah, I don't think it's a necessity in terms of thriving a relationship, but it can help in certain circumstances. And I think it can. I think it's important to share interests as well in relationships,
Mm.
and
There's
because
other things we have in common. It's not just, a board game thing, but I just think it's not that important
yeah.
for people to use that as a way of saying, all right, do they play board games? Tick as a like tick box and what they expect from someone, so to say.
Do you know what I have seen Facebook threads of people trying to find partners who enjoy board games like they do,
Mhm.
and it's kind of one of those things that shouldn't be the priority of finding someone. It's the connection you have between one another, regardless whether they
Yeah.
enjoy it or not.
Yeah, sometimes it's the things that make you different is what makes you work so well.
Yeah,
Like the fact that one of you likes reading a book and the other one likes playing video games means that you both get to do both of those things regardless and still talk about them and educate each other about them. You know what I
yeah. You never know. You might get into hardback or something.
mean?
Uh,
Yeah,
I know.
that
So
might, that might be. I think there's a few games she's interested in. Like Madara is definitely one of them because she likes anime as well as I do. And I think that art style has got her intrigued. But I did warn her, it's a long campaign. If it's a commitment. But then she married me, so I'm sure she's used to it.
well, she could put up with you, Jonathan. I'm sure she can put up with
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
Let's see how you put up with the next question. So we're on to number 7.
I need to stop talking about Madara. It's like I'm pining for it.
Well, what phrase comes to mind, Jonathan, when it takes
Madara. Sorry.
30 minutes 30 minutes to set up a medium to light board game. What phrase comes to mind?
For 30 minutes for medium to light,
Mhm.
average. It's kind of
Yeah.
normal. That's like what you'd expect.
Well, so a setup time, so setting up the game, not even
Hmm.
playing, just set up, 30
No,
minutes to set
yeah.
up.
Are you talking like first time setup? So like
No,
the
just
moment you open the
the
box,
average
or
time to set up a medium to light board game is 30 minutes. What's the first phrase that comes to mind when that happens? Every single time it takes 30 minutes to set up a fairly light board
oh,
game.
just watch a video, is it? Nah. Well, I don't know. A medium to light board game for 30 minutes. It depends. It really does. How long is the game?
Well, usually the average time for a medium to light can vary between 45 minutes and an hour and a half, can it?
I mean, if setup takes longer than it does to play, then that's more of an issue than just like, I don't know, half hour setup. You're just saying hello to everybody if you're in a group, or you're just getting yourself coffee ready while you're doing it, aren't you?
You seem
I'm
more
okay with half hour.
you seem more
I
patient than other
spend
people.
long time putting up games, man. You'd be surprised how long I'll spend setting up a game just because I want the decks all set out right and stuff. I play
There is,
solo and I've got time to do it, man. Sometimes I'll spend an hour setting up a game I play for 45 minutes.
I can tell you what, there's no way I'd spend 30 minutes setting up a medium to light board. No way that
You need to
happening.
play core space, man. You have to build that game before you can play it. It takes me like 90 minutes to like put all the terrain together, get the maps out, and then set it all up before I can even spend 45 minutes doing my rescue mission, you know? That game, that setup is twice the length of the game, and then you got to put it away again and take it all apart and stuff.
Well, you've practiced patience because I'm sure many people would not put up with that. I'm
I
sure they
just
would.
give myself 4 hours of board game time, and I take as long as I need. Like, I don't play, like, because I play solo, I don't have to finish a game straight away. I can play a couple of turns, walk away from the table, make myself a coffee, wander around the house for a bit, come back, play a couple more turns. Because I'm not waiting on other players in that sense. So playing solo, it gives you a lot more opportunity to play flexibly and really
Yeah,
like take your time.
I suppose it depends in terms of setup time. I think for most people, you'd have to love the game to spend 30 minutes setting up a game, regardless
Yeah.
medium or heavy. And I think you'd
Whereas
have to be engrossed in that board game to put up with that consistent 30 minute setup time.
it's like some games, I don't know, like you look at something like Bitoku, they're just that complex. Like there's enough little bits that go on all different places on purpose that it does take a long time to set up. And the
Yeah,
game is quite mid-weight, even though it looks a lot more complex than it is.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, I'd be interested to see what other people think about this and what's the kind of cut-off point of the setup time for a board game. It'd be interesting to see what viewers' point of view are on that because everyone's different in their patience and what they'll put up with. So let's see how patient you are with the next question, Jonathan.
Yeah. I've been impatient so far.
Well, we're into number 8 now, so we're near the end, and we've got an agree or disagree statement.
Oh, they're all
So,
agree or disagree.
what watching other people play a board game is boring.
False. We make a business out of it. To be fair, like I film playthroughs. Do you know what I mean? It's like difficult. I think a lot of time watching the game is a good way to decide if you like it or not as well, especially if people are doing full gameplay stuff. Like considering what I make is very different to what I watch. I tend to watch a lot of full live streams. So like when I'm deciding on like if I like a game or not, I'll tend to watch like gaming rules or something, play it for like 3.5 hours and actually see a full game with the learning, etc. But like I don't know, I think watching games is kind of the best way to figure them out apart from playing them.
Yeah, it depends on the person because I'm one who will not sit and watch somebody else play a board game. I'd be bored after 5 minutes. I'd rather
You're a
watch.
content creator.
Yeah, and I suppose everyone's different. I mean, I remember I went to a local convention in Cardiff, okay, and I
Mhm.
there was interest in this board game, Escape from Alcatraz, and I said, "Oh, can I sit down and watch?" Now I watched a good 10 minutes of it because I was interested to see how the mechanisms worked and what kind of how it's got the theme was going to fit in. But I was bored. I was like, I walked away. I'm not watching any more of this. I've got
Yeah.
an idea now, but everyone's different. It just isn't for me. I'm sure some people are happy watching the playthrough videos that are on YouTube. Just not for
There
me.
is an exception to that for me, and that is I won't watch videos on any games I'm covering because I'm rating the rulebook as part of that rating. So I don't look at how to plays when I say if I'm covering something for review, I got to learn that game from the rulebook in order to be able to give it the accessibility score. So I deliberately don't watch other people's content around stuff that I'm covering myself.
Mhm.
So that's an exception for me personally, but that's only just to avoid that level of bias where it was easy to learn. I watched 2 videos, it was fine. That's not an excuse for a bad rule book in my review system. So it's just how
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. I think anyone should be reading the rule book and after doing reviews. So let's move into our next question, Jonathan. We're on to
Hmm.
number 9 now. So we're near the end, and our ninth
Mm.
statement, if I can open this thing, is an agree or disagree statement. So lots.
Oh, no open-ended questions today.
I think this is a good one. It's ideal for you. So having children gives you an opportunity to condition them into board gaming.
No, it's not fair. I think it's up to the kids what they want to do. If they like playing with Paw Patrol or Lego, let them do it. You know, I'm not going to force them to play board games with my kids unless they show interest in it themselves. I don't want to turn it into a chore. I think they have to do with dad on a Sunday afternoon. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is interesting because my kid, I tell you what, they're consumed in the technology. Okay, so if I try and get my daughter off a device, it'll be moaning and groaning. But when she actually plays a board game, she loves it. She really enjoys it. So I think it varies from child to child
Yeah,
considerably.
definitely. Like I said, I've never really trying to pull him. If I was to pull him away from a device, I'd probably go somewhere more than in most cases. I mean, at home it's different, but like in general, like he's okay with his tablet in most cases. And I know it sounds horrible, but it does work for him, and it's because of his tablet. He's shown some interest in certain games I play, and that I'm trying to get him into things like Zuli, like the little animal Stargate stuff that I don't mind that if he breaks, you know what I mean? Stuff I don't mind getting ripped or whatever because I can just replace it easily. I'm going to end up playing a lot of gateway games with him, put it that way. I think it's going to be stuff like Uno and stuff like that. But in most cases, I imagine there's plenty of people who have kids that really do see a board game and get excited about it at the same time.
Yeah.
Especially if it's something their dad does or their mum does. I want to do what daddy does, whatever, you know?
Yeah, it's a good point, and I think that there's always a board game for everyone, regardless whether they're a board
Mm.
game or not. There's something for everyone. Again, it could be a nice social experience, sociable experience.
Everyone knows a certain card game with it. If you give them someone a 52 deck, card deck, they'll know a game that is made from that deck. Most people know at least one card game.
Yeah, Jim Rummy.
Exactly. Jim Rummy, last card, Snap, even. Do you know what I mean? Everyone knows something, which means there's always going to be a game that someone likes because
Yeah,
it's not so restrictive. It's not like buttons on a controller. Do you know what I mean? You're not restricted into this is how you play.
no,
So it has a lot more like variability
yeah,
than most other hobbies.
yeah, absolutely. But no, I do agree with what you said earlier. You shouldn't be forcing a child to kind of condition them into playing board games. It's their choice whether they
Mhm.
want to. But although you can be like me and get them off the devices and tell them they're going to play a board game, whether they like it or
Yeah,
not.
but they end up
Right.
liking it. That's because you know that your kid will like this or whatever when you do it, isn't it? That's you
Yeah.
being aware of what their interests are.
Oh, I found one game that my son will play, and it's not an effort to get him off his devices. It's just one. He loves it, and he will get off his.
Just one is good. I tend to play a lot of conventions and stuff. I tend to play a lot of just one.
It's a great game, and yeah, might even play that at UK
It's
Expo.
good if you're half cut as well. It's one of those games that's good to play if you've had a couple of drinks at a convention and you're
Yeah,
not quite there in your head.
yeah, it's easy, it's fun, it's a good bit of laugh, and you don't feel silly either. So
Well,
yeah,
I
and
don't drink anymore anyway, so
so let's see what a fifth, not a fifth or a tenth and final question is or statement. So we've had a lot of agree or disagree statements. Have we got
Mhm.
anything for our last one? We've got a yes and a no question.
Yay, binary questions.
Do, do people gloat too much about their game collection?
I think we have a problem with the way we show off our consumerism sometimes. I do think like often we'll show the big pile. Look at my convention hall, and then they show about £2,000 worth of games.
Yeah,
I think that can be a bit excessive, and I think it can send the wrong message to people who just want to play. They can, oh, look, a hobby looks really expensive. They don't understand that realistically they could spend 20, 30, 50 pounds and still get something that's really worth playing.
It is a very good point because I think the same concept of you probably haven't got kids, so you've got the money to spend on it, or you've
I've got
got
quite a large collection, but it's taken me a time to collect it. It's not something I've spent a lot of money on very quickly.
yeah, and either people got a ridiculously high end job with a lot of income,
Mhm.
or children to be able to afford to go to all these conventions because it's downright expensive, and
Yeah,
to put,
I only go to two a year.
yeah, so it's an interesting one. I think I have no problems people saying this is my collection. Look, these are the
Mhm.
games that I find interesting, fantastic when I see that. I think when it comes to, oh, look, I've bought 152 games at this convention, I think I really don't care. I mean, you bought a convention, quite frankly.
Yeah,
Others, mate, that's
I'm
fantastic.
struggling to buy a hot dog over here, mate. I'm counting
I've
my change to buy a hot dog on Sunday, like.
It'll be interesting because obviously we're off to the UK Games Expo in
Yeah,
Birmingham in I forgot where it is. Anyway, in a couple of months.
I got all my press passes hanging up right here
There
from
we go.
previous conventions. So yeah, I'm looking forward to going with you this year.
So, and you certainly won't be seeing me buying any board games, if any, because I just don't
Yeah.
go to conventions for that. I go there to enjoy the experience and play games and meet people.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. I very really I buy like one or two things at tops most of the time, and that's usually something that's like, oh, I didn't know that was going to be that cheap, or that's going to save me a lot on shipping. That's the times I'll buy stuff.
So,
I'm still looking for bargains, man. Go around on a Sunday, see how many cheap and free expansions you can get. By the way, don't do that, and don't tell them I sent you. You'd be
but if,
surprised what deals you can get. Like there's people selling the card games with all their expansions for 30 quid on Sunday afternoon.
yeah, well, we'll see. We will see. It'll be interesting to see what other people think about this because obviously a lot of our viewers will also watch other channels and see big board
Mm.
game polls that have come in and whether that kind of excites them, whether that draws an interest to them, and they're going to want it helps them make purchase other games
Mm.
as well. It does.
Well,
Oh,
that's
jealous.
kind of why when I cover UK Games Expo, I tend not to focus on that side of it. I tend not to focus on the consumer side of it. I tend to treat it more like a travel vlog. Like it's more about this is your experience as a convention goer as opposed to here's all the behind the scenes. You know what I mean? I go at it from an angle of this is what to expect if you're going to visit the convention.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
I don't set up all these interviews or nothing. You know what I mean? I'm quite. It's more like this is what it's like walking around on the ground.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure you'll see people grab as well for a conversation. But yeah, if any of you are actually going to the UK Games Expo in Birmingham, please do drop either of us a
Mhm.
message or
I'll be
either
wearing this.
Beast channel or this one, and we'll both be going and heading there and
Yeah.
footage as well. So it'd be great to see people there and to meet people in the flesh as well. So this
Mm.
brings us to the end. I'd like to thank our guest,
Oh yeah, that
Jonathan.
was question number 10. I forgot that was the 10th one. I was like, where's the next question?
But yeah, we'll put the description down below. No, we'll put the link in the description down below
Yeah.
the channel. And if you haven't already done so, hit that like button and please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already done so. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for those who have subscribed. Now, this will be one of our last Under the Meeple lights. We'll try and squeeze in a couple more if we can before the end of the series, but we're coming towards the very end of this. I'd like to thank our guests one more time and thank
Yeah,
our
you know
viewers.
I gotta say one thing, don't you? You know there's something I have to say at the end of every video that on my channel that I'm gonna have to say at the end of your video.
Hit it.
Have a great time and everyone stay hexy.
That's it for now. Bye from me.